Why, hello, everyone. Oh, you can barely see me. All right. Why, hello, everyone. It's VJ Thor. Good to see you all. Today I have something special for you, a three-part special, if you will. In July of 2022, I went to Kenya and had a great time there on a missions trip. And as soon as I got back, I sat down and recorded everything in like an hour-long video. Luckily enough, past VJ was smart enough to think about segmenting the video into arcs. So we'll just do the arcs instead, each video. So this first video is going to be the first arc, the safari arc. For the quick, also another thing, I'll probably put this earlier in the video. Quick thing, I'm going to be using fake names because I could use real names. The people that I met are pretty chill, but you know, just to make it easier, I'm just going to use a bunch of fake names. So before we begin, I am obviously, black, and I'm Christian. And that played a lot into how I felt during this missions trip. So just sort of a heads up on some of the topics I'll be talking about. Very black-based, very Christian-based. So, first arc, the safari arc. First things first, before we get into the safari arc, I had to fly to Kenya. International travel is grueling. It was an 8-hour flight to Germany, and then a layover, and then an 8-hour flight to Kenya. So it was like over 20 hours of travel in one day. And your body just starts to give out on you. You're sitting there on the plane and you reek, your breath's bad because it's been multiple days, or at least one full day or a night cycle. You get to Germany and everything's in German, and you feel terrible for only knowing English. So that's a big thing that I learned on this trip. In Germany, there's a lot of German. In Kenya, obviously, there's a lot of Swahili. And I only know English. That was quite embarrassing, actually. I realized that one of the things I really want to do is at least become bilingual, because I feel like monolingual is just sort of like limiting you from a whole world of possibilities because you just don't know the language. We fly into Nairobi, and it's the middle of the night. I get there, and I'm just in a new country. Mind you, before this, the only international travel I've ever done was a cruise to the Caribbean when I was 12. And now I am not only in a different hemisphere, but also in a different part of the equator. So everything is different. I get there, it's the air feels fresh, it smells of burning wood as opposed to diesel and oil like here in the US. I feel good. I'm in the continent where my people are from. I don't really know very much about my ancestry and my genealogy and where I come from specifically, but I know I come from the continent of Africa, so it was nice to be back, I guess. So the first thing we do when we get there, we all crowd in on a bus after a little debacle with customs, and we head to the Heart Lodge, which is the center where we're staying for our time. Beautiful place, really cozy and comfortable. The day after that, we head to the slums. I was warned before this trip that I would see poverty unlike anything I've ever seen before, and that warning held true. This neighborhood was filled with people. It was right next to a fence that had a school in it. All of the houses were tin shacks. There was no drywalling, there was no insulation. It was just wood and then tin, and that's it. None of this fancy stuff. No carpeted floors or anything like that. They had electricity in some of the rooms. We meet this woman. Her name is Miriam, and she's doing a lot of different programs for the kids in the slums, just trying to get them good food and a place to sleep and those sort of things. And it's really crowded. It's really crowded in there. There was a room with 2 bunk beds, so 4 beds, and I'm pretty sure it was double digits of children living in there. And it was like a pretty small room. That was the boys' ward, and there was a ward for girls. Downstairs there was a kitchen, cooking with a wood stove and whatnot. All of the water where we were was unsafe to drink, so you had to either buy water or you had to boil it and stuff like that. We kind of did a loop around the slum just because we were in one area, so it was to see all of it. They were trying their best, and that's one of the things that I found was really inspiring. They didn't really have very much, and even with the little that they did have, they stretch it out a long way. While we were walking, it was a bit interesting on this trip. There were a lot of people, only 3 of us were black, and it was very interesting interacting with the Kenyans, especially the children. They kind of understood, Americans being white, that makes sense, but to see an American that's black was confusing. While we were walking through the slums, a lot of people would just walk up to me and start talking in Swahili, and it was a little embarrassing to have to tell them, like, hey, I have no idea what you're saying. There was a guy that I met while we were walking. He kind of just pointed out a section of the slums where people would go to do all sorts of drugs, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty bad. I introduced myself as Virgil. We sort of walked next to each other for a little bit in silence, and then I was like, all right, I'm going this way, and I went that way, and I'm not really sure where that way was. I should have asked if he was going towards the drugs or not, but I'm not sure. But after the slums, we immediately transitioned over after a 6-hour car ride. It was the next day, stopping by all of these different tourist places to get some really cool things, some tapestries. There was haggling. It was a fun time. We drove to a place called the Fig Tree Camp. Really, really nice place. I'll plug it. If you're ever in Kenya for some reason and you want a cool safari to go to, I'd say go there. It was like camping because we were in tents, but they were like super posh tents with like walk-in bathrooms and stuff, and like all of the meals were like buffets, and it was super good food. During the day, we would head out to safari. So there were 3 days of safari. Before this trip, I thought a safari was like a one-day thing. Like, you'd go to the zoo for a day. It's like you go to the zoo, but the animals are there are no cages, and they can kill you. But it's like a day thing, right? No, safari took 3 days. The first day, there were a lot of other tourists and things there, so there weren't really a lot of animals to see. We did see some big cats. And of course, a ton of zebras and gazelles and wildebeests, antelopes, I think they're called as well. A lot of prey, but not a lot of the cool predators and stuff like that. But there were a lot of other tourists there. It was cool to ride around in the safari vehicles and bump around. Some girls there that hit on your boy. Thought he was pretty cool looking, some giggling and stuff. What can I say? Mr. International. But and then I lose my train of thought. Day 2 was the day with the most animals. We saw giraffes on the first day, but a lot more on the second day. There's actually 2 giraffes that were fighting. Pretty cool. And then there was a boy giraffe and a girl giraffe that were... We also saw elephants. A family of elephants, really wholesome. It was literally right after all the stuff with the giraffes.
Look, they're flapping. Yeah, she's like, no thanks. I don't want any part of that.
We saw some leopards up close, some cheetahs. I saw lionesses. One of them stalked off into the grass, and we were just like, oh, hopefully it doesn't come back. And she just sort of disappeared, which was terrifying. And we saw a lion, and he was taking a nap. And we circled back around, and he was still taking a nap. But then he kind of saw that we were there, and he sort of woke up and smiled majestically into the breeze. And we got some pictures of him, and it was pretty cool. He looked like a surfer dude, which was pretty awesome. The third day, we just went in the morning, and it was kind of cold. We didn't see very many animals, but it was still neat. You got a lot of really cool pictures of the scenery. Ooh, I can't remember which day it was, but we also went to Maasai Mara, which was the local tribal village. It was really cool. We got to see some of their traditions, how they make fire using their swords. We got to go inside of some of their houses, learn how they were built, learn how the society functions, what sort of goods and wares that they specialize in. And they also had the jumping contest, which was a contest to see who can jump the highest just straight standing. I guess using whatever those hamstrings or something, just straight, like not bending legs, not swinging the arms, just straight standing jumps. And they got pretty high, like 18 inches off the ground. They were getting pretty high. They did it the night before, and I tried. And I lost. But, you know, I tried my hardest. Went toe-to-toe with some Maasai warriors, and hey, you know, missed in and... So after safari, we headed back. We were still sort of jet-lagged, and also, you know, safari lasts like 8 hours, and remember, you're in the middle of the savannah, so there are no bathrooms. You know, those bumps really get to you. You're in the middle of the savannah, so none of the roads are paved. But it was fun. It was fun. It was nice. Everybody was absolutely slumped. It was hilarious. But we got back, and that was the end of the safari arc and the start to the next arc. At that time, I was sort of thinking, like, why was I there? You know, we were in the slums. We were in the depths of poverty, sort of the lowest living conditions that I've ever seen. And then we go and we spend 3 days in this posh safari, you know, with buffets and walk-in bathrooms and all these cool animals and stuff, and pretty much living in the lap of luxury. And it's like, it's a missions trip, you know, we came here to help. It was just kind of, I was a little confused. Luckily, the answer to my question of why was I here comes in the next arc. Definitely the living conditions. There were a lot of tin shacks, not just in the slums, but as we were driving along the roads, which, by the way, there were no stop signs or speed lights. There were just speed bumps every now and then, and speed, not limits, but like suggestions. People would just sort of like drive. There was a yellow dash line in the middle, so that means you can, you know, traffic is going the other way on the other side, but you can just kind of go around. And that was it, and that's how it went. There weren't a lot of accidents or anything like that. Driving is very strange over there. Infrastructure is very strange over there. There is no, you know, civil engineer. I look at things from a civil engineering standpoint. There isn't any municipal water system. It also looks like the electrical systems were just sort of like haphazardly put there. Like some of them were electrical poles. Some of them were definitely just like trees that have just been like shaved off. Some of them were just straight trees. Everything was exposed, like the transformer, the fuser, like everything was exposed at like high five level. Later on I would learn that they have wells, but the wells have like brackish water, like salt water in them. And again, piped water isn't safe. There was a lot of rain barrels everywhere to collect rainwater. The infrastructure was very different from the US. God has an interesting sense of humor when it comes to sort of the majesty of the animals and everything like that I saw on safari. And it was just kind of fun to see the animals interact and hang out and stuff like that, and all of the weird things in safari. Like also zebras just look so weird and cool. So do gazelles, so do all the animals there. And just to see the interesting things in creation. And even though I'm far away from America, there's still a lot of Christianity in Kenya, and they still know the God that I serve. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Well, don't want to keep you guys and gals too long. So thanks for tuning in. And if you're interested in catching the next arc of this journey, then go down into the description and the link to that should be there. Thanks and have a great day.